I think this is episode 3.
Do you know what
Well,
I've
we
got in my
decide.
head? And I can't get it out, and this is what it's like living as a neurodivergent person. Inspector Gadget. And it's been going on and repeat all day, and I don't know why. I've got no idea, but I just wanted to tell you that, so you know what I'm battling against as we're doing this recording.
You know when you have those moments, to anybody else that's listening right now, because we haven't even started, and already now I'm like, no, get out of my head, Inspector Gadget.
I have to feel it. Anyway, so while you deal with that...
No, hang on a second. You've just done a stop contract, because now, in my head, I'm like all I can just see him. Yeah. I can see this. And I'm like that, right? Jacqueline, think of something else. Think of something else to change what you're thinking about. You need to actively work on something else. Visualization. For anybody else, if you haven't seen the trailer for
follow us on Instagram,
Brad Pitt,
and Mam will send you it.
as one of the drivers in Formula One. Actually, can I just have a moment?
11:11.
I know. Actually, but yeah, 11:11. We're on the right path. If you, I've always kind of like Brad Pitt, but
I'm going to just leave it there. Conversation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're supposed to be having a conversation about something different, aren't we? Just so you know that I think this bit, Lauren, can we leave this bit in? Only because this kind of shows what we're really like.
Yeah, this is it.
And if people want
this is the reality.
Yeah, a hint of our conversation and what it's like to work as a mother and daughter team. Generally, we allow these moments, don't we, where we begin anything. And
if you were here on the last episode, it was really like put together, and we really thought that through. About how
you might have done.
Like... All right, I did. About what it's like to work as a mother-daughter team. But this, all of that was true. I would like to just...
Yeah.
We definitely weren't lying. But also this is the reality of it. So, I would like to start... Order. I don't even know if they can hear that, but I was just tapping my chair. I got really excited. I would like to talk today. So we were talking about podcast ideas, and Mum was like, I want to talk about sitting with discomfort, and we were talking about why that's so important, and she'll tell you why in just a second, because I'll let her talk.
Thanks.
But while we had that conversation, I was like nodding away, like, oh yeah, sitting with discomfort, discomfort, yes, like 100% we should talk about that. It's something that people find really difficult. And then we kind of walked away from the conversation, and I was like, fucking hate it. I would rather chop off my own toes than be uncomfortable. I wouldn't. I'm getting better at it. I'm definitely getting better at it, but it's definitely not something I'm comfortable with. So the question is, for the people listening, I want you to explain this, Mum. What do you mean? What is sitting with discomfort, and why does it matter?
So sitting with discomfort, from my perspective, is about being able to sit with feelings that I don't really like the experience of in my body very much, or haven't done in the past, or I've actually suppressed them and avoided them totally. So feelings like anger, and just to be aware, absolutely, these are not feelings that I want to sit with for a long time. They're definitely feelings that I would like to limit the amount of time that they're in my body. But I am someone that years ago would not have even allowed them, and would have dismissed myself if I'd even felt them, or stayed in them longer because I was, and that, I think that's the biggie, stayed in those feelings longer than I needed to, because I tried it. There's a brand new dictionary coming out. It's called the Blonde's Dictionary.
Tried it.
You might need that to listen along to us. But yeah, I think that was a big thing for me. It's probably worth saying where all of this started from, actually. So I, grew up, I don't know whether this is relevant, but grew up in the northeast of England. You don't particularly talk about your feelings a lot.
What do you mean? We're an emotionally available group of people.
I don't mean that in the northeast particularly, but just in my family in general, we didn't particularly talk about that. And I also grew up at a time when I think, as a woman, the being angry, these uncomfortable feelings, this discomfort, we didn't know how to deal with things like that. So nobody ever taught me how to sit and understand what was going on for me when I wasn't okay. And I reached a point in my mid-30s where, I feel like I'd done what society would tell me were the external things that I needed to change to feel okay in myself. And I got really much more healthier with what I was eating, what I was doing, activity-wise and stuff like that as well. And, here I am. I've got 4 great kids. I've got a great husband. We've got a dog. I work part-time in a job that I absolutely loved. I really loved what I did. And yet I still woke up on a morning and life felt hard. And I dismissed myself all the time. You shouldn't be feeling like this. Like it was like there was something wrong with me.
Like
I
the
needed
on paper didn't match up with what was going on in your head or
it's
body.
it's that whole thing of I just need to think more positively. I just need to just come on, crack on, and maybe the next dress I buy will make me feel better. And yeah, it did for about 10 seconds. Or the bit of chocolate, and it's that. And I was at that point, and it's really lovely to be sitting on a settee talking because, and in a really nice place to have these conversations, because actually most of the conversations I had with myself were on the coffee table that I had that the kids nicknamed the dance floor.
Because it's fucking huge. It was like 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters. This giant wooden. So you still got it.
We do.
Like our kids now.
We still have it, and
sit on it.
Hide underneath and certainly. But I remember this one day, and I knew something needed to change because I just didn't get what was going on, and that for me, I just didn't feel right. And a leaflet popped through the door, and it was for a 10-week counselling course where you learn about counselling and what it was all about. And I just took it like a sign. I was like, do you know what? I need to go and find out a little bit more. And it was through that experience of doing the degree, ultimately, over those years, that actually I realised that one of the things that I did was I didn't accept myself as this person that had these, feelings that society in some ways had told me weren't all right. Rage, jealousy, anger, disgust, all of these things that we've got words for, and yet it's almost like we're not meant to use them or have them, or it's seen as a bad thing if actually I'm angry about something, and that lesson at that point, and I think this is really important, Lauren, with what you said at the beginning there, because I am older than you. I mean that makes sense because I'm your mother. And I've had some opportunities that you've not had with that as well, to be able to look at that. And it has been a bit of a journey for me, which sounds like a cliche, but it's true, a bit of a journey for me with looking at accepting who I am as a person and allowing these feelings. And, throughout time, because something we talked about on the last, or one of the podcasts, I'm not sure the order in which we're doing these, but just to say, on the last podcast when we were talking about, treat yourself the way you'd like other people to treat you. Even just as part of me wants to say I'm sorry, because I'm sorry, because that's, you realise that at that point I was teaching you what I felt was the best thing at the time, to be, respected in society, to actually have a really great way of living. And we learn so much more as time goes on. And I think that's really important, because one of my values is learning. It's knowing that I have strong beliefs that I loosely hold, because the more that I learn, the more I can see that things maybe are different to even 5 years ago. So yes, anyway, there I was, having done this person-centred counselling qualification, and I was in a place where I allowed my emotions and I allowed myself to sit with the discomfort. And is it all right if I tell a little story?
I don't know. Guess we'll find out when you tell it.
About my 40th birthday. So my 40th birthday, Lauren's shaking her head. I don't know that she knows this. This was the moment for me that I realised that it was okay to have all of these emotions, and how, if I allowed them, they flowed through me like water. Because I was somebody that prior to that had spent time on antidepressants. I'd, really struggled, and I'm aware of now of that was due to a lot of experiences that I'd had, and not allowing those and processing those feelings and this discomfort. And my 40th birthday, I'm in the midst of the coaching degree, and we are off on a weekend retreat. But because it was my 40th, I came home on the Saturday rather than staying away because I wanted to spend time with you guys as a family. And then the following morning, I was going to wake up on my 40th birthday and drive back to Whitby, which was where we were going to do the final
I
day.
do think I know the story.
And we had a cracking night, really great. And I wake up on the Sunday morning and I've kind of got this expectation that because it's my 40th, everybody's going to get out of bed. You know, they're going to be there to wish me happy birthday and all of these things. And nobody got up. And I can laugh now but I can really see, I can feel that part of me that, you know, felt gutted, like I wasn't enough, like, you know, I didn't matter, all of those things. And it wasn't that in the slightest. I know that now. Yeah. It was none of that. It was like everyone was knackered. We'd been up late. Some of the children were still quite young. And we'd had a glorious celebration, you know, and I sulked and I didn't open my birthday card.
Absolute shock.
I don't know what she's trying to say there. So I felt sorry for myself is what I would say. And I left my birthday cards and everything. I didn't open anything. And I got in the car and I'm heading away from home. I was literally a mile away from home when a song came on. Now, bearing in mind, I've got all these feelings. I know that it's okay to have them. I'm kind of sitting with them in the car and I'm driving down. And then... a Sia song came on, and I can't remember which one
Chandelier.
it is. Not Chandelier, Titanium. Oh, what a song. And it came on, and it was fascinating. Within a moment, I felt something shift, like it was like energetically in my body. I realised as I was kind of like evaluating, reflecting on it, that like I was feeling something completely different. And then something else in the song, and it builds to this crescendo, and I was feeling something else, and I was like, and it was this real moment where I recognised this flow of emotions within me, and that I wasn't this static being that would stay in it, that actually throughout even that probably 2 or 3 minutes of that song, I went to various places with my emotions, and I was just allowing them. And it was interesting because when the song finished, I reflected on the fact that actually you were just tired and everyone was in bed, and that it was okay. And it was because I'd allowed myself to sit with that discomfort. I'd allowed myself to be in that moment and to talk about it. So anyway, yes.
So that's why we're talking about it. Because that's why it's so important.
I noticed that you said no when you were saying about it, that it's not the most comfortable for you.
It's not, but actually I have realised in this conversation that I don't think I've been quite as open to what it really means, because do you know what it made me think about? You I don't know the specific thing you were talking about earlier, but you were talking about like not being allowed to feel jealousy and anger and disgust and those kinds of things. And I've kind of always had this thing where it's like, you know, something happens, I feel angry, and I'm stopping myself from feeling angry rather than just letting it go through. And I do think that's part of it. But actually, it made me think of like little teenage me. Probably not little, because I'm pretty sure I've been this height my whole life. But teenage me, and I lovingly call teenage me a little pick-me, right? She was an absolute pick-me. And I love her. She got me through a lot of stuff. So a pick-me, if you don't know what a pick-me is...
She can see I'm looking at her curiously.
She got
I've got, tell me more about that.
A pick-me is generally a term for a woman who says things like, I'm not like other girls. So I was a pick-me, right? So at 17, I was like, I like rugby. I'm not like other girls. I'm not dramatic. I don't like pink. Gosh, I could keep going. I'm mostly friends with boys because like girls are just so much drama, and all that kind of stuff. So that was like the pick me, right? But I was just fucking desperate to be liked and fancied and loved, because at that point in my life, that's what I thought was important. Spoiler alert, it's not. So if you're 16 and you're listening to this, number one, I hope you got your parents' permission, because we swear. Number two, gets better, man. Just gets better. Just hold on, because it gets better. But the point being that I found it very uncomfortable to be anything and experience any sort of emotion that specifically men when I was younger didn't like. So like I would be jealous and I'd never say it because I wasn't allowed to be jealous, because I wanted to be the girl that never got jealous. But I was jealous. And if I'd just been like, God, I do it with my husband now. I'm like, I can feel that. I'm like, oh, I'm jealous. I'm like, you better come over and give me a cuddle. So I can just be jealous and get over it. And I'll ask that of him because I'm like, oh, I recognise that. And I'm not trying to hide all of these parts of me that they make me uncomfortable because they're not what people want to see. So even, in our last podcast, we talked about not wanting to be honest with each other when things aren't working because we don't upset each other. But that's uncomfortable for me. So it's uncomfortable for me to say something to you that I think might upset you. But I am learning to say those things because I respect you well enough and I respect myself enough to say, I didn't like that. Can we do that differently? Or whatever that is. So I don't think I gave myself enough due. I think actually I've done a lot of learning and I still don't particularly like uncomfortable emotions that make me a bit uncomfortable. Shock. But that has changed because actually I would rather be disliked for who I actually am than liked for someone I'm not. And it's interesting for me that that's sitting with discomfort. Like, in order to get to this point, I've had to sit with this discomfort of accepting that some people just don't like me. And that just is what it is. There's a Recess episode. Gosh, that's showing my age, isn't it? Recess.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
Why is that just coming to my head? But there's a Recess episode where TJ, the main character, spends the whole episode trying to get another boy to like him. Because he just doesn't like him. And at the end, he's like, I don't get it. Why don't you like me? And the boy's just like, I don't know. I just don't. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. He just doesn't like him. And, like, that's what it makes me think of, So it's like, I think the sentence that I think really is important with sitting with discomfort is choose your uncomfort. Choose your discomfort, right? Because we avoid allowing the anger. We avoid allowing the disgust. We avoid allowing being disliked. We avoid, we're trying to stop that feeling of being uncomfortable and in the process are uncomfortable. Because it's like...
Do you prolong it?
Yeah. And like, so when I was being a pick-me, I was I was in a relationship and I had boys liking me and all that kind of stuff. But I was hyper uncomfortable all of the time because I was doing all of this shit that I didn't enjoy. Like, and to a point where, in my late 20s, I realised I had no idea what I liked anymore because I spent so long trying to be what other people liked because it was uncomfortable for me to just own what I liked and, possibly be rejected for that. That was so uncomfortable that then it was like, oh God, now I'm going to have to find it all again.
Isn't that the thing, though, that it's like actually what you were saying there, the very route to finding out what we like, the very route, to my one of my favourite words, which is restoring that connection to yourself, is to allow those feelings. Because actually for me, when you were talking, I was like, well, that's how you know what your boundaries are. Yeah. That's how you know what your needs are. That's how you know what fills you up, what drains you. It's that. And yet how many of us have learned, and I'm hugely am somebody, that has gone back and explored being a little girl and explored relationships to understand these patterns that I'm in and how come I was the person who just wanted people to like her. My word, the effort that took, the energy that took, because the thought of sitting with the discomfort of not being liked or, not being and I guess this is a bit, maybe not being respected and, the tendency to people please, all of that, avoid conflict because I'd much rather you just liked me because I couldn't sit with the discomfort. Whereas actually, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'll do people's head in. Like at times, I am somebody that likes, because we were just before we started this podcast, we were talking about different things, weren't we? And about one of them was about not going too deep. Like, I am that woman. I am that woman who is like literally, I'll dive in the deep end with you. I'll dive in straight away.
I would like to point out that when we had that conversation, I wasn't saying,
nope, not yet.
Not to. I was just saying that on this podcast, perhaps we should keep it light.
Yeah, later. No, and I agree.
Until these people understand who we are and trust us a little bit more.
And I trust you. And I guess that's the part, isn't it? So actually listening to you. Because one of the things, and again, I'd love you to tell me if this, it sounds as if what you've been able to do is give yourself some more compassion. And because for me, that's one of the things that leads to being able to sit with uncomfortable feelings and that discomfort is that little bit of compassion And compassion is, 3 elements. One is the mindfulness part of it. So actually even the noticing. So even the fact that you notice that jealousy and, what was it? Because often it can be that bit of like, well, what is it here to tell me? I love that. I love that. There's a poet, Rumi, and he talks about this guest house. And, if we talk about the fact that we say you are your own home, that these visitors come every day and they are the emotions and they teach us something and they're there to tell us something. And often we dismiss it, like you say, we avoid them. And it is that part about actually the practice of noticing. That's mindfulness. Just what's going on for me in this moment? How am I holding my body? What am I feeling? Just even that little check-in with ourselves, which isn't about, having to close our eyes or any of that. It's just literally a moment where you just take a breath. Allow yourself just to, notice how are you sitting, how are you feeling, which then will allow you to then, have a bit more understanding for yourself, because the second part of compassion, self-compassion, is this common humanity. I'm not the only person that, pushes down their feelings, eats them, because that's what I did. Does, deals with them in a way that is to cope. Because, we talk about coping mechanisms. And then the third part is the kindness, and kindness is action. In what way do I want to deal with this? And sometimes that might be that actually this isn't the moment to deal and do anything physically with it. I will do something later. Also, though, it's knowing. Is there something? So just to give you that example, Lauren, with Dave, you were very much like, actually, I noticed that I felt this jealousy. Now, I don't know whether or not you gave yourself that moment to realise you wouldn't be the only person in the world that felt like that. It's completely understandable and normal. And then there was the bit after where you come and give me a hug. I need a hug, because, it's almost like, what do I need? So that kindness was you going, what do I need in this moment? Having experienced that.
Yeah. So
self-compassion is a key part of being able to sit with that.
So the example that I was thinking of, and why, just to touch on the fact that, you're saying that sitting with discomfort and allowing that in a compassionate way is so important, because it lets us move through it and then come out the other side. And that's what we all want, right? Is we all want to get back to the place where we're not feeling that whatever it is. So the other day I shouted at my little boy, because I'll be honest, 3-year-olds are overstimulating. And he was being an absolute gem, right? He's funny.
He is.
And he's chatty and he's sassy. But at this point in
he's
the
like
day,
his mum.
At this point in the day, I was touched out. Like I needed to not be touched anymore. And he was basically sat on my head. I needed him a short. Because I was just trying to do a million things at once. And it was just super normal. But he did something that was a bit of a wind up. And I was like, oh! And I don't ever yell, like fully angry yell, because I haven't got there yet. I'm sure I will at some point. But I yelled in a way that didn't sit right with me. And I stormed off into the kitchen. Interestingly, so before all of this work and stuff that we've done, I imagine that I'd have been the kind of parent who would have stormed off into the kitchen, probably slammed some cupboards, and then been a bit of a dick for the rest of the day. I probably would have been that person, but it was what self-compassion looked like. Because we say self-compassion, right? But what does it actually mean? Like, what does it mean in the moment? So I was stood there and I noticed that I literally in my head was like, I'm so overstimulated. And then I felt my shoulders were like basically in my eyebrows. So I made my shoulders drop and I was like, I'm really overstimulated. I'm really tired. And it's been a really long day. And that was like the first moment. So I wasn't like, I need to give myself some compassion. I've just practiced doing that.
That's it now, yeah.
So I'd said that. And then in my head, I was like, if anybody had the day I had and currently had the child who's all of a sudden decided to swallow a dictionary that I have, they would also have done what I just did, or might have done that and then walked away. So then I was like, okay, it's definitely not just me. And specifically, I have a friend that I think about and I go, she definitely would have done this too. Because we're in it together, with the parenting thing. And then I was like, what do I want? What's going to make me feel better? And what's going to make him feel better, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, that's what I need. So I went into the living room and I sat down in front of him and I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, Mummy got frustrated there because Mummy's finding today a bit hard. And he looked at me and I was like, I know you have hard days too. And he was like, no. But I was like, it's fine. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'll try and be kinder next time. And I gave him a big hug and it was fine and he was fine. And he'll probably forget it now because it's not a big deal. And then I turned to my husband and I was like, I'm going to get in the shower. Don't talk to me for 20 minutes. That's what I needed. I needed to just tell him to fuck off. Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to get in the shower. Don't talk to me for 20 minutes. And I didn't at the time realise that I'd done the 3, like, but that's kind of what I'd done. Just like, and that's what it looks like in the moment, is because then I'd forgotten it. So by the time I came downstairs, Arlo wasn't angry at me. Dave wasn't walking on eggshells because I wasn't slamming cupboards and being silent. I didn't have shoulder pain. You know, all of those things that would have happened before I started practicing. And that's it, isn't it? Because actually, these little things that we talk about aren't about snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're somebody who's massively self-compassionate.
Oh, my words, no. It definitely takes practice.
Give it a go once. So it's like when you notice, if you're ever at a point where you're like, maybe you're driving in your car, maybe it's that you notice you're grabbing the steering wheel like you're trying to kill it. You know, maybe you're white knuckling it on the steering wheel and that's your trigger to go, oh,
what's going on?
I'm stressed or I'm angry or I'm overwhelmed or whatever it is. What is it? And then like validate it.
Yeah, and can I just point out that common humanity is really important because often, you know, if we think about other people, we'll think, well, you know, other people have got it worse. Yeah, they'd manage it better. Or they've got it worse. You know, they've got it worse than me. Stop it. It's not that. Yeah. It's realising that these common experiences actually for me meant that I wasn't isolated and I wasn't alone. And that's
it's not everyone deals with it, so you should deal with it better. It's everyone deals with it and would probably react the same way as you would.
That's
it's a
the
safety.
kindness.
It's a sitting in a circle with people and going, oh yeah, look, we all do the same thing.
And kindness it's that truthfulness about what's just happened, I think, is the biggie for me. It's like being able to see it for what it is rather than kidding myself that it was something different, because then I can move through it. I can understand it better.
And learn from it.
Because
next time, hopefully I'll realise I'm overstimulated before I ever go.
Yeah.
And so I won't have to do the bit in the middle. I'll just go, Dave, I need to go for a 20-minute shower.
That's the bit of that.
First.
That's it. I'm realising I'm overstimulated. I need to touch out.
Separate
I need to get out.
I get to a point where I kick off.
Because can I give it an example that kind of echoes what you've said for me, which is a little bit different because it was about speaking up. Because one of the things I've struggled with for most of I would say for most of my life is speaking from my perspective. You know, the fear that you wouldn't like me, and I don't mean you specifically, but other people, the fear that you wouldn't like me, or the fear that, you know, I'd get it wrong, and I understand where that comes from, meant that often I would avoid conflict. I wouldn't say, because one, I didn't want to cause discomfort in you. So it's interesting because there's a part of me thinks I would rather sit with the discomfort than you sit with
I'll
it.
make myself
I'll carry it
so
rather than you don't have to. Whereas,
and that never works because people can always tell.
Yeah, they can when you're not. Yeah, but that's the whole thing about a people pleasing tendency is you think by doing what people want
or what you think they want
will bring you respect, and it doesn't. It doesn't. And then all you do is get resentful and annoyed.
People pleasing supports nobody.
It does. And I can understand the reason that I did it. It was such a protective system for me.
There's still definitely
I learnt with that. And I just have this memory of this moment, being sat in the living room where we used to live, and Dad and I having a conversation, and I didn't see it the way that he saw it, and I didn't know about being assertive back in the day, and I felt this sense of discomfort because it's like all of these feelings are going through me. There's probably a bit of frustration and everything else, and you know, I was at a point where I was really blamey. And I remember getting up because I just cannot say what I need to say. I slam the front room door, go straight into the kitchen. Now, bearing in mind, right?
Oh, I know this story.
I've told you this one before. And I literally find my hand on the cupboard because I'm now going to eat something. Because that was the way that I dealt with my discomfort, was I ate it.
Yeah, you didn't say what you meant.
No.
And because that felt awful, went and grabbed something to eat because that made it feel better in that moment. Yeah,
it's almost like, oh, I'm so angry, I'll just swallow it down, I don't want to deal with it. And I could physically feel it in me, and it would get stuck in my throat and not want to come out. And I know there's a lot more to this, but for me personally, that just even that moment, and it was interesting because I did eat something, but while I was eating the very thing that I was having, I was realizing that was what was happening. This is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because, I'm not accepting that these feelings matter. I'm not accepting that it's okay to have them. I'm not accepting that they're just here to tell me something. And I feel like a boundary's been broken for me, and it's not okay. And I need to go and talk. And actually what I did was put down the jar of what I was eating, turned around, went back in the front room and went, I need to talk about how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I'd never done that. That wasn't me.
I bet he shit himself.
People in training say to me, "Oh, I bet your husband loves you." As you start to change things,
he really does. I do want to put it
I
out
do
there.
his head in, but that's okay.
Oh, and if he ever listens, which he 10 out of 10 will never listen to this. Oh my god! But he has done some growth too, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
it
oh
is.
my god!
But I do think it's that. I think it's the, from different places, even learning. I mean, hang on a second, the learning curve I've been on this journey with blondes, and the things. I mean, I've run businesses before, but not like this, and all of the things that come with it.
No, and actually, you were so. This to some people might sound really little, but it wasn't little at all. So we were chatting the other day, and you were like, "Oh, and I just did this thing where I copied all of these documents over from this place to this place, and then I did this PowerPoint, and I sent it all by myself." And I was like, girl, what? Because actually that's discomfort for you. So you, like, way back before I was doing the stuff that I'm doing now, so I was just doing the back end, like that's what I would do. So I'd just do them, and then when you started taking over, it was super uncomfortable because you weren't comfortable with using the drives and the things that we were doing and getting all of that done. And it was very much like, you give me, and it's absolutely fine to give me a ring, by the way, that's not
No,
the
I
point.
know that. I
But
do know that.
give me a ring and be like, how do I do this? Let's do it. And that still happens, but you sit with the discomfort first and go, hang on, I can do this.
Yeah, because my discomfort in those moments is these feelings of being inadequate.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this, and the panic that I get in that moment. And then of course that can lead to procrastination because then I put it off. Whereas I've learned that procrastination is emotional. So what am I experiencing? What's happened? The fear that I'm not going to get it right. The fear that it needs to look a certain way. So there's perfectionism. So actually sitting with that discomfort and breaking it down into smaller chunks. What's the first step? Or, let's just look at it for 10 minutes, set a little alarm. So there's all little tips and methods that we can find and ways that we can do it.
Yeah.
Being able to allow myself to tolerate that has meant that I've learned things, because instead of then walking away from it, and sometimes I do still walk away. Sometimes I do get up from my desk and go, I'll ring you, or I'll go and get a coffee and and actually even that, giving myself a bit of a break from that and then going back into it and looking at it. But it's allowed me to, I love the word expansion. I love it. I love this idea that I am expanding, and being able to. My head
is Violet Beauregard.
Violet Beauregard. Oh no, not that word. Oh. If you can't see that, I was pulling my face in, not blowing it out. But yeah, this idea of kind of like as I bring more in, like. And I'm beginning to learn and understand things. But yeah, oh my word, the discomfort. Some of the stuff when you've said things about the technology. So when Lauren does start talking about funnels, my eyes glaze over. And I'm just a little bit like, huh?
She's learned to shut it down though, in terms of like, because it would be
look.
this big like, oh, I just don't. It was a spiral, wasn't it? Where
I did.
Like,
I would panic.
Do that, and I don't know what that is, and I don't know. And it's like,
but I just sit with it now.
You don't need to, because that's what you've got me.
I feel it, and because I've felt with, because I've done that,
because we sit with the discomfort, it passes.
It passes.
And that's the thing in it. So it's like, actually knowing you matter, being able to be yourself, that's the key, right? Because we're going to get deep. We're only on this world for a very limited amount of time.
Right.
We're made of actual stardust. Like genuine stardust. Physically is what you're made out of. So why not be yourself for the one bit of time that you're here? And the way that you do that is by allowing yourself to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So like my question for the audience today is what makes you uncomfortable? Just one thing that makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's when your partner goes, what do you want for dinner? You don't go, oh, I don't know, what do you want? You go, chicken. Or Taco Bell. I don't know, whatever it is. It's weird now being in the UK and saying Taco Bell. But do you know what I mean? Like maybe it's Maybe it's saying what you want, because I know that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Maybe it's maybe someone goes, "Can I give you a ring later?" and you go, "No," because that's uncomfortable, because we don't like saying no to people. Maybe it's you feel jealous of something and you just sit with it and go, "Oh yeah, of course I feel jealous. I'm finding this hard."
I've just had someone that I've worked with that the jealousy thing, just on that note very briefly, is they recognised, I asked them to tell me about what were they experiencing, what were they feeling, because we were talking about a particular thing. And I noticed their discomfort in saying the word jealousy. And I said, how would you feel about going there? Should we have a look at it? And we looked at that jealousy, and actually what came from it was ultimately them allowing it, which meant that they realised that they were limiting what they really wanted for their future. And that through recognising that jealousy and who they were jealous of and what was happening, it showed them what they really would love.
Oh, I love that.
That was the biggest thing, because it's there, it's just there to tell us. So yeah, anything like that.
Yeah, choose something.
Choose something. Get in touch. Tell us. We would love to know what that is.
Because we want to know how you're going to show yourself that you matter.
Yeah, because
by sitting with discomfort.
Yeah, by listening to yourself. You know what you need? A damn good listening to.
Oh, I love a good tagline. Well, thank you for being with us again.
Yay.
It's been delicious.
As you can tell, we enjoy this as well.
I'm super comfortable in my chair, actually.
With a mushroom pillow.
There's not mushroom.
Is it with not mushroom?
And with that, we bid thee farewell.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you next time.
Bye.